All right, Legion of Skanks, that is the podcast. I was lucky enough to do it just a few weeks ago. Big Jay Oakerson, Luis J. Gomez, and also Dave Smith is here. Wait, is it Luis?
It's Luis. It's supposed to be Luis.
Yeah, it should be.
You know.
All right, good. I had a good time.
I'm offended when people call me Luis for some reason. Does it sound like they're making fun of you?
No, it is funny, though, like whenever I have somebody, like, because I type your name as your name. I should probably learn to type it out, Lewis. Yeah. If they don't know, because remember I said I had the Sixers guy, the announcer do the thing. He just organically says Luis because I didn't think to write Lewis.
And then you're too nice of a person to correct him, so you just let me be disrespected and called Luis.
Yes, that is correct. He's busy. It was pretty cool. He did it.
Well, I did the podcast, and it's kind of interesting to see how the whole thing has grown. Like, I haven't been in New York and traveled around and done the scene, you know, and there's places, there's studios, they're popping up all over the place. It's kind of, to me, it's interesting on what you can do with the square footage allotted. Like, it used to be you'd go do Letterman. It was at the Ed Sullivan Theater. You'd go do the Tonight Show. Like, these were big, even politically incorrect. You'd go to CBS, you go to television, Radford Studios, the Man Show. We did these big sound stages, and now you go into these little, like, single apartments with these little kind of, the room we're in is 10 by 10, but you light it well, you do it acoustically, you wire it up, and all of a sudden you do a show from like what was nothing. And I think it's probably changed the world of order.
It makes you realize how much money was wasted with television production.
It's unbelievable.
You do one of these like Fox Talking Head shows, and it's a massive like...
Every one of them's getting 75K plus benefits. We have 15 people here. We've never given one of them $1.
Yeah, they're all under minimum wage. They're all volunteering.
We probably owe them some money.
We tell them there's big opportunities.
But you see, like, there's like, you go to like, you know, and I haven't done all those massive TV shows you name, but I'll do something like, what was it, Red Eye we used to do on Fox, right? There's like a production team of 30 people. There's like all these lighting, soundstage for a show that I promise you has
people panicking
1/30th the listenership of this show or any other popular podcast.
Yeah, it really has upset the market, and it's kind of interesting. And you know, I guess it's a new world order. It's awesome. When I started podcasting 13 and a half years ago, everyone was like, what's a podcart? How are you going to make money? This is insane. It was kind of embarrassing. It was sort of weird. Like, people would go like, what are you up to? And I go, I'm doing a podcast. And I go, okay, well, maybe you'll get back into real radio or TV or something. Like, don't worry. It's like you said, you played for the Yankees and now you're playing for the Mud Hens. Yeah. And they had this thought of like, well, you played good for the Mud Hens. Maybe you can make your way back into the Yankees rotation. And then over the last X amount of years, it just went the other direction.
As where it all goes, I was visionless to it because I know I've told you this before, but early on when Fuse Network was still a music channel, I pitched a TV show to them, and they came back to me. They were like, well, we're going to make you an offer, but it's not for TV. We're going to do, and they called them webisodes. They go, but we're going to do like 10 webisodes with you as the offer we're making. And I was like, fuck you. Nobody watches fucking stuff on the internet that. Yeah. You want to put a show on the internet so no one sees it. Okay. All right. Instead of the widely viewed Fuse channel.
I'll be taking this idea to MTV3. Thank you very much.
I took it to MTV2. They didn't buy it either.
What's the comedy, I hate to say scene. I mean, what's it like out there for you guys now? People always ask me all the time, like, as a comedian, are you censoring yourself now? Are you freaked out? You know, are you scared you're going to get attacked on stage? I don't really have any of those feelings.
Jay was attacked on stage.
I was attacked on stage, yeah.
He was a guy we were doing a show in Royersford, Pennsylvania. It's called Soul Joel's. And it's like a big
white fella.
It's not even a real venue, dude. This guy's hilarious. This guy Soul Joel, he'll go to like a field and he'll set up like a stage, and like it's BYOB, you have to bring your own chairs. So people show up in a field, and he charges them money to enter this field that there's no gates for, there's no security.
Legally, I don't think he'd have any recourse if they said, I'm just not leaving.
I think he just took a chair to that field.
You got to bring your own chairs. It's got to be confusing and potentially dangerous with your girlfriend because you're like, it's bring your own seat. She's like, fuck you. You're like, no, seat. Yeah, I got it. No, chair. Oh.
It's the best scam I've ever seen in my entire life. Just to be like, yep, we're here, the Star Comedy Club now, and you're just in a field.
Yeah.
So we're doing it, and
This
I'm
lawless
gonna go outside
society.
and start collecting $2 air taxes.
So
I need a tax for that air you're breathing right now.
long story short, Jay's on stage, looks down, Jada Pinkett's in the crowd. She starts ripping on her a little bit.
I give her a little razzing.
no, what happened was, you tell us, because you actually tell it in your act now, which is too, so I don't want to
Yeah, but it's
step on you.
Now there was a girl who was being loud and getting shitty during Lewis's set, and then when I went on stage,
Rightfully so.
She nailed that.
Yeah.
But then was taking it out on me. No, she was just like a problem, and like, I just was going back and forth with her and like winning, and her just hit like a point where she just like got frazzled and started screaming. And then her brother just walked right down the middle of the aisle. And as I was thinking of the 30 different things that were going to happen, how I was going to handle this, very confident in all 10 scenarios. The one I never saw coming was him just reaching up and grabbing my ankles on the stool and pulling me like forward.
The stage was like 5 feet high. So he pulled Jay off the stage. Luckily, the guy was drunk and just pulled Jay on top of him. So Jay just fucking squashed him.
No, I was able to redirect it. He was going to
loved
flatten
it.
me out.
I loved you. Lewis said to me the day after. He goes, yeah, the way to fight Jay is not to pull him on top of you. He goes, it's like trying to fight a bookshelf by pulling it on top of you.
I'll show you.
Do you guys
He pulled guard from
on your trials and tribulations and road work and all that kind of stuff? Do you your travels, I should say? Do you guys find the most obnoxious people in the crowd were formerly hot chicks that are now in their early 50s, late 40s, who are drunk, who act as if they're the 23-year-old who got away with anything back in the day because they were a smoke show, but now they're knocking on the door of 40 and they're juiced up. And they're equally as obnoxious as they were when they're 23. It's just society's tolerance level's gone way down because they're not hot anymore.
Every time I start a show, I say, hey, turn the lights up, the house lights, and I get everyone to look at everyone's faces so we know who's really talking. Because those girls, they lurk in the shadows, you're right. Because they have blonde hair, you can't really see. And very often you're like, oh, it's a hot chick. Then when the lights come up, you're like, oh, no, she's just fucking a formerly hot chick.
You're the ghost of a hot chick.
She's still the trophy, though, for the guy, because the guy she's with is still 20 years older than her.
And they also, in the same way when you meet a guy, like, they say you're all in your own mind, you're always as famous as you were at your most famous. You know what I mean? Like, you'll meet somebody who was famous once,
Kimmel
but out of nowhere.
That. He thinks he's still on the Man Show.
Still walking around with that juice?
Totally.
No,
but so the hot chicks are like that. They still think of themselves in their mind like they're like this prime piece of ass.
It's like when you see old fat guys fighting. They were the jocks in high school, and now they're in their 60s, and they have they're wearing a belt, to keep their gut in and everything, and they'll go at it because in their mind they're 17.
They think they look so cool doing it too. But I love dad fights is a great genre of videos to watch. Because they go for it, and it looks like their hits do hit like thunder because they're thick dudes.
They're dads, dude. Dads have tons of power.
The last thing to go is the power.
But they're out. But they're winded and just holding each other to stay up.
I do like when they get their second wind and go at it again, though, which I see a lot with dad fights.
It's like an agreed upon like headlock break. They just hold, and they're both like, I'm not going to try to get out of this, and you're not going to try to squeeze it any tighter. We're going to get our wits about us and start this back up again.
So you guys, your pod is described as the most offensive podcast on earth, which I'm here to say I probably second that emotion. You do things that are weird and embarrassing for not only yourselves but those around you.
Sure,
that's a good description.
A big part of that was, and this is very deliberate, we started calling it the most offensive podcast on earth. This was Jay's idea, actually, because it makes people leave us alone. We're not tricking anybody. If you click on it and you're offended, you're a fucking moron. Why would you click on something called the most offensive podcast on earth? So it's almost like it's dumb and almost like hacky, like the warning, like, parental advisory warning.
Yeah.
But we give you that warning preemptively. And I think it's one of the reasons why we haven't really gotten in that much shit for the things we do and say.
No, it brings up a really good point, because during the whole sort of cancel culture and everyone's trying to silence everyone and get them deplatformed and everything, I said, look, the only way out of this is if nobody apologizes ever again, and we just get the fuck on with our lives. The problem is people keep apologizing, and once they label you as a person who apologizes, then they just come back for more.
Sure.
And I'm like, just don't do it. And people would say to me, like, oh, you say offensive shit all day long, you must get into trouble, you must have to, and I go, never. But I got onto a list who doesn't apologize early and often. And once you just put it out there, which is sort of here. So I always say it's like Snoop Dogg smoking weed. He just went, I smoke weed. I smoke weed everywhere. This is what I do. And if you ever see Snoop Dogg like backstage or in the green room of the Tonight Show or something, he's just smoking weed and no one says anything because he's like grandfathered in. He's like an Indian with peyote. They just go, well, that's his culture. Leave him alone.
Because if you were to be like, oh my God, you won't believe this. We booked Snoop Dogg and then he was smoking weed. You're like, well, I mean, obviously, like you booked him.
But so if Mike Rowe was sitting in the green room smoking a joint, someone would come in and go, hey, you can't do that shit here. What the fuck? But they don't do it. So you like establish yourself as that.
That's the headlines.
And then you essentially get left alone. So you guys are
smart.
Well,
it's bully culture because they just want the reaction, right? So they want to see you move a little bit. They want to see if they get you to sweat a little bit. And if you don't do it, they just move on to the next person because they need the reaction. That is their currency, right?
But we're the right ones to go for. I think comedians are the right ones because you can get us saying in jest all the things you're looking for to some degree. And when you come at us, like, at the core, I'm not saying it's how the reaction goes exactly, but at the core of it, you're like bummed that someone's so angry about it.
Well, you want to make them laugh.
Yeah, your goal is to make them laugh. Yeah, and they're like, not only am I not laughing, like, I think you're a piece of shit for saying that.
You shouldn't make money and your child should die.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what? I just made a joke.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, you could just, there's other comics out there you'd like, probably.
Do you think there's so the question is kind of this, because I talk to Dr. Drew about this all the time. Is there some sort of shift where people are swinging back toward the middle insanity, or are we going further apart and there's just a larger group of people who aren't going to apologize, who are tired of the cancel culture?
I think what's really interesting, like the way you laid it out before, where there's like everyone used to do the network studio thing, and now there's like this alternative internet world of shows. The thing that's interesting is it's not one or the other. It's not like the pendulum is going back or forth. It's like the pendulum for corporate America is still going crazy in the woke direction, and the pendulum in the alternative internet thing is like way back the other way. Like, because no one ever really voted in woke shit. It's not like there was a consensus. No. And like 80% of Americans were like, yeah, we find everything that like Chris Rock and Richard Pryor and George Carlin ever did isn't comedy anymore. That's too offensive. We want comedy to be this way. Yeah. So it's just like corporations kind of like forced it on people.
Yeah, you know what it kind of is, as I think about it. It's a small group of people who seem to speak for a lot of scared people. Because when you take a lot of their shit like pronouns or Latinx or dudes swimming against chicks, most Americans are like, fuck that bullshit. Yeah. I'm not a fucking retard. I'm not going along with that shit. But there's like this really small group that is like setting, trend, like Andy Warhol or something. It's like one guy, but the nation follows along with his art, or Prince.
But they have a big advantage. They have a big advantage, which is that's their whole life. So like there's things like there's like sugar quotas or something like that. Like they tax sugar that comes into America. Everyone here pays like 3 cents more for sugar because of that. But it's worth like $10 billion to some sugar company. So they're so incentivized to make sure that's in. Whereas it's like all mildly inconvenienced. So all the people you're talking about who are like, that's retarded. We don't believe in any of this. They also have a job and 2 kids and a life. And they're not going to protest.
I don't give a shit that there's a transgender person in a Starbucks commercial enough to go and fight
that
fight.
That side will be with pickets outside your business or online. They will start a fucking harassment campaign. They'll dedicate. So to the corporate CEO, he's like, look, none of these people are going to complain if I go in this woke direction. But if I don't do it, I'm going to just have that 1% of America will never leave me
Until
alone.
a Nazi coffee company comes out and makes better coffee than Starbucks, I don't care what Starbucks' political beliefs are.
Oh, how awesome would that be, though?
It's just straight up Nazi coffee.
Nazi coffee?
Yeah, they're kicking out black kids. Sick.
The beans are the same. It's the roasting. Yeah, well, I look at it sort of like it's like that whole movement, this whole minority of people that somehow speak for all of us. It's like you're on the set and there's 50 people on the set, but the person that's doing craft service and making the run for the lunch is vegan. And so they're like, all right, we'll have one chicken parm and 700 vegan sandwiches, you know, and then they return and everyone goes, what the fuck? We didn't sign up for this. And they go, you want to be called a racist? You want to be called a Nazi? You want to be called a homophobe? And they go, ah, fuck it. I'll just eat the lettuce sandwich. And that's kind of where we are. It's like a small subgroup that is setting the trends for everyone. But people like Netflix have had to sort of unwoke themselves a little bit because corporations are kind of finding that going down this road just sort of blindly, you know, following the trans movement, whoever their conductor is waving his wand and them doing what they want, they're kind of figuring out that that's not working out with the average American, and they're kind of having to change direction a little bit.
Oh, someone showed me a meme yesterday that was like, it was like trans men, intersex people, and something like need their abortion rights too, or something like. There's like an already like difficult situation going on. And it's just like, what about trans? The impossibility of a trans man getting an abortion. Why don't we get worried about that? But I think it's funny too with the whenever I've been like criticized, or Lewis or Dave, like for joke stuff at all, I like the term when they go, "You're punching down," which I think is like its own backhanded insult. You know what I mean? It seems more inclusive to kind of make fun of it. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Right.
But
she was 4'5".
It doesn't.
He was literally punching down.
I was punching down. No, do you know what I'm saying though? They're like, why? It's like, why are you picking on this lowly piece of shit who can't defend itself? This trans thing. You know what I mean? That's what they're almost saying.
But you're kind of. But it's also they have a whole backward vision of what up and down is. So like you're like, no, I'm not really punching down at some trans person. I'm punching kind of up at the dominant ideology that you're not allowed to question. So it's like they're, you know, the same thing where it's like, you know, they'll see like some white trucker as like privileged,
right,
and Michelle Obama as like the oppressed class.
Right.
It's like, now you actually have this whole thing fucking wrong anyway. And comedy isn't really about punching up or down. It's just about being funny.
Yeah.
But it is. I think the trans thing, honestly, is almost where the woke have overplayed their hand.
Yeah.
I saw a poll recently that said that less people today, but I forget exactly what it was. I would say believe in the trans shit, but it was like, do you believe that someone can change their gender? Some question like that. And it was like 15 points lower today than it was like 7 years ago. And I was like, that's kind of interesting that the more they're pushing it, the more people are like, just being comfortable to say, like, I'm not saying I'm going to be a dick to anyone or not call them what they want to be called, but if you ask me, can a man just decide he's a woman now? No.
Well,
that's not a real thing.
From like a psychodynamic standpoint, it feels to me like they're just going to test you, and that's why they keep going. So they start where they go, would it be okay for two men to get married? What do you think? And you go, seems weird because I'm old, but okay.
As long as they don't have kids.
Yeah, like I'm fine with that.
We're talking two whites here, right?
Yeah, I was going
All right.
David Tell joke. A man should be able to marry a man as long as they're the same race.
So they kind of go, here's where we are. And then you go, okay. And then they go, all right, let's talk pronouns. And you go, why? And they go, you know, because some people identify as different. You go, okay, seems fucking lame.
By the way, I didn't even get there. I still, to this day, I can't.
I don't know. Lewis, hit this button when you've gone too far. Can two gay? I'm out. Take me off this ride.
It's crazy.
I'm going back to 1992.
I think pronouns are insane too. I don't get them. But I think the plan is then they go, and then how about a dude who calls himself a she so he can go into women's prisons and rape them. And then you go, oh, I'm not. Oh, so you're fucking a hater, are you? But my thing is,
That's my last ditch effort if I ever have to go to jail. I'm a woman.
I'm a trans woman. Let's party.
I'm a trans woman, and I am ready to go to jail.
But doesn't it feel like there's some shitty stepdaughter who's testing the boundaries? Like she goes, how about my curfew's at 10? And you go, okay. And then they go, how about 11? And you go, and then she goes, how about I do coke at midnight with this Puerto Rican guy in your bedroom? You know, and you go, fuck no. And they go, oh, so you hate women? So and you're like, no, we started in a semi-normal place. It took you fuckers 10 seconds to get to dudes with cocks beating up on chicks in swimming pools.
Yeah.
And no, we're not down with that, but that doesn't mean we didn't sign off on the beginning part of it, which is guys can marry.
And also, like, I think we all go, cool. If you want to have a cock or not a cock, have fun. It's your body. I think most people, I think you talk to 99% of the people in the United States that go, do whatever you want to do with your cock.
That's what I think.
I don't
That's
care.
what I kind of say. That's how I verbalize. If you want to cut your cock off, like, go ahead. You can't make me not think it's weird. I think it's weird.
I think it's weird that you have two nose rings.
Sure.
I gotta think that this chick with a cock is normal. That's crazy.
Well, it's the same way you can't demand. It's like it's a religion, which is like really what it is, right?
Yes.
And in the same way that it's like, hey, if you want to go be a Christian, okay, you're a Christian, and you believe you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and you kind of believe your atheist friend is going to go burn in a pit of fire for all of eternity, and your atheist friend kind of believes you're delusional. Like, that's just, without saying it like that, that's kind of what you believe.
You guys can still go play golf together.
You can't demand that person has to participate in your delusion.
Right.
Like, you must also believe in this same thing as me.
But
like,
I don't mind participating in it. The frustration I get is if someone looks like a woman, but they're going by he, the correction of that, when someone goes like miss, and they're already like, motherfucker, and you're like, come on. Like, you have to at least give one shot to be like, like, it's actually, I'm, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, it's obvious why you would say that, but I prefer this.
It's funny,
and it's always right to like anger. Called me miss.
But so do you guys, so my take on it is it's less about the movement and more about how much can I move you? How much can I manipulate you? How much can I control over you? It's like Black Lives Matter. Like when I did a doc called No Safe Spaces, and the guy from Evergreen University and Brett Weinstein, I think it was. And it's like they had a day without black students or something. And he's this liberal college professor at a super liberal college. And he was like, all right, well, a day out of every year, no black students as a protest or whatever. And they're fine. And they did it.
Was that the white people's idea or the black people's idea?
Well, all of the black people's ideas now are former white people ideas, like separate college dorms, separate graduations. Isn't that worse than a drinking fountain?
All the racists were like, yeah, dude, no black people. This rules.
There's all these black power people who are like, we will pick your cotton on this plantation. And we're like,
this university is evergreen.
Yes. No, they're all racist ideas of the past. They've just kind of
repackaged
into our ideas.
Sports program goes to shit, but
so nobody showed up at Evergreen. It was a football powerhouse, and the black students, they did it for a while, and then at a certain point they were like, oh, this isn't good enough because everyone's doing what we asked them to do. We must ask them to do more. So we asked you to drop and give us 20. You gave us 20. Now we're bored. You got to drop and give us 50, right? So they said, now nobody shows up. White, black, professors, whatever. And this guy, he's a progressive guy, and he's just like, I came here to teach. I respect what you guys are doing, but I'll be there Monday to teach. Yeah. And if anyone wants to show up, I'll be there. They went ballistic. They surrounded the classroom. He was in danger for his life. They wouldn't call the cops because, the dean was scared that the presence of the cops would anger the partisan crowd. And it just all spiraled out of control, and he had to quit, and there were death threats and everything. And it's like,
this guy's life is ruined because he's wanted to teach.
Well, actually, but he actually became like internet famous off of it.
Wasn't
so
the plot of Dangerous Minds?
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah, she showed up. Like, I'm going to teach.
Get your privileged ass out of here. Wait a second. She's turning that chair around. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, so many of my teachers looked like Michelle Pfeiffer when I was
Yeah, I didn't have any teachers in a tight leather jacket.
So I think it's there to manipulate. I think these are just angry, fucked up people, and I just think they're taking it out on
It's
everyone.
fun. It's also like when you're bored and you have nothing to do and you're not creating anything or you're not having, probably anything truly worthwhile going on in your life. The biggest currency in your life is clicks and likes, and you get to feel like you're doing something important. You get to feel like you're part of some sort of social justice.
They are.
They're
not part of social justice, but they make moves. Things move because of it. It's like you said before. One person apologizing ruins it for the people that aren't apologizing anyway.
Well, I
want to be a part of collectively something like. So instead of them just doing something that people like by themselves, right? And like, I created this piece of content and people are like, this is great. They get to be a part of this big, gigantic movement.
Most of them,
look, I did this.
Yeah,
but they didn't really.
Most of them aren't even creating content really, or wouldn't be with that. You got to think, right? Like if you look at like the way we look at the world versus the way the social justice warriors look at the world, and then think about what we're offering, like that one of those 20-year-old kids who was protesting Weinstein
Evergreen,
there,
right?
at Evergreen, right? So what they offer that kid is, okay, here's your role in the world. You are in this epic battle against this villain, and you're making a difference, and you are fighting
They get
this
to feel
struggle.
like an Avenger.
You are really like in this, like you're basically the one standing up for the Jews in Nazi Germany. You are this hero.
And it's like 2
Black
weeks
Lives
ago,
Matter.
you were just Greg.
Yeah, and what we're offering you is you're a 20-year-old idiot who doesn't know anything about anything.
Yep.
You need to fucking get in the lab and start working because you've done nothing, accomplished nothing, and shouldn't feel good about yourself. So like, who's going to win that battle for
Right.
most of those 20-year-old kids?
Yeah.
Like who's the person who's offering them this role in a fantasy?
Well, that's how they get. That's how they
know?
recruit white supremacists. Like, that's the way they kind of recruit them with that. They're like you could
Yeah.
be. It's like you're just some dude, but you could be a part of something like much bigger.
And you could get
No,
all your
but
evil out on one group, blame all your problems on this one thing. That's
you have something to focus on every day.
Dave, like what I think what Dave is saying, it's like, look, I want to propose universal income. Everyone who makes less than 50 grand a year gets $1,000 a month. Let's take a vote. And it's like, well, yeah, let's take a vote. You're going to fucking win because more people make less than 50 and want a free,
And really, only in that situation, only people making above 50 should get a vote.
Right.
No one making under 50 should vote over whether these guys give us some of their money, because you kind of have a conflict of interest there. Anyway, that's why democracy is bullshit.
No,
But
I agree.
That's a whole other story.
I remember Santa Monica is like the most blowhardy city on the planet, and like Wells Fargo at their ATM was charging $3 for whatever, and they thought it was gouging. The city of Santa Monica, $3 for getting $80 out of the ATM. And I was like, well, don't fucking go then, or work it out, or have another bank across the street will charge $2 and then they'll get the business. And so Santa Monica put it to a vote, and the people are like, nah, we think $3 is too much. And I said, why don't you fuckers put parking tickets to a vote? Parking tickets are $42. Let's put to a vote. Who thinks it should be $9? Raise your hand. Citizens of Santa Monica, fuck off. But I know you're a libertarian, right?
Yes.
And I want to talk about that because I think people, they think of like Bill Maher's a libertarian, I guess, but I don't know. You're shaking your head. I'm trying to think of who
Bill
the
Maher was a
libertarians
Dave is
are.
a snobby libertarian.
not
So
a
you start
snobby
throwing
libertarian.
non-libertarians at him.
No, I don't think we'll take
Dave's
Bill
a
Maher.
real piece of shit
I
libertarian.
I don't think Bill Maher will come. Well,
I've never seen somebody so condescending.
No, I just don't think. I think he's a progressive. Like, I think he's one who hasn't lost his mind on some of these like woke issues. So he's like he's still kind of like, he was principled enough and enough of an old school liberal that he's not like, oh, I'm going with whatever is the last 5 minutes is like the new fad. But I'm like a Ron Paul, like real. I fucking am libertarian on everything. But I like when Bill Maher's good on stuff.
Where's the libertarian come down? 'Cause I think of myself as that way, by and large. But like, where do you come down on like the border, the southern border? What would a libertarian stance?
Well, there's
on
a lot
the
of
southern border.
there's a lot of
Literally,
disagreement.
this whole segment's gonna be me and Jay, like dogs watching volleyball.
I mean, they want to build a wall to keep Mexicans out, but who's going to build the wall? You hear this? You see this in the news?
But there's a lot of libertarians disagree on this. Me personally, I'm like, I'm fine with border controls. I don't think you can have open borders in like a first world country, and I think the immigration system we have right now is insane.
Yeah,
I think you can't just have hundreds of thousands of people flooding in that the domestic population had no say in whether they come in or don't come in. And then it's kind of like, oh, all the stuff that's here that's been worked for that we've paid taxes into just belongs to the world now, or whoever gets here. I think is kind of
What are you?
insane.
What a soul Joel in charge of this country?
Yeah, really.
So, for Jay and Lewis now, let's talk banging skank on the road. I want to keep it even here.
Yeah. Ones we've done together or separate?
Hell yeah, dude.
Do you have some good banging skank on the road stories?
Oh yeah.
Sure. Together?
Or together,
Together,
apart?
separately, the three of us.
Yeah. No, it's been a gross world. I mean, we've all been doing this since we were like in our early 20s, essentially. You know what I mean? So yeah, there was a time where
There was never any
There was
chick.
a time where
the
it was
three
like
of us.
there was no money in it, so all it was literally about trying to get pussy after the shows.
I mean, completely about that. Yeah, the money
did
was.
they show up? Did the women show up for you intentionally thinking, I'm going to blow this guy, or I'm going to get laid, or I'm
Now
going
that
back to this
happens.
hotel
Now,
room?
yeah, for
now,
sure.
now that happens.
Back
but no.
then-
Back then, you would have had to been one crazy bitch to show up when we were completely unknown.
back then it was a woman that was willing to fuck an ugly, failing comedian after a show without anybody in the crowd. It is a sad type of woman.
But now you're saying,
Sometimes they come out with a mission. Yeah.
can you tell?
Yeah, they're usually a little heavier than me. And,
they sit in a certain section.
Don't fuck them on that stool.
No, they're pretty blunt. I think if they want some, but no. But back then, yeah, that was always the thing too. Like, because after the show, you really had to like schmooze if anything like that was going to happen a bit, because
Dude,
like
me and Jay would go to a town, and we would. This is when before there was anything closer resembling apps. There was Craigslist casual encounters, and I mean, I wish you could somebody.
oh man,
You remember this, dude?
Now,
We would,
yeah.
you could go. There's a thing called like Time Hop or one of these things where you could find it. It's out there. I wish somebody could send this to us, but we would post ads. Like two entertainers. We wouldn't put comedians. Like two entertainers coming in town.
Looking for some fun.
Did you really do that?
Yeah, looking for some fun. Nothing serious.
I've
only
never
casual.
heard this story.
Oh, dude, we would
That's
every time.
hilarious.
We'd show up in Rhode Island with Craigslist
No strings
casual.
attached.
All right, Dave, question for you.
I was making
Libertarian.
$600 for the weekend.
Libertarian corporate tax, go.
Abolish it. Zero.
All
no
right.
corporate taxes.
Let's talk to fucking Poon on the road. Again, what is protocol? Because after a set, like I was just in Springfield, Missouri. It was about 103 degrees outside, a lot of humidity, club hot, lights hot. You're doing an hour set up there. You're working up a sweat.
Sure.
And I feel like I've played organized football and ridden a unicycle, but I don't feel like my balls ever smelled more than
Really?
walking off stage. And what's protocol? You shower up, or is it back?
Before you
Just
bang a chick? No.
Yeah.
No, but
Is that part of the experience for them? Like, they don't want clean balls. That's not what they
I
signed
don't
up.
know. I've never had an issue with that, but except for one girl asked me if I could jump in the shower, which made me so insecure when she said that. Of course, I think she had my wiener
She's
in her
like,
hand.
can you call a friend?
Did you jump into that douche vat?
She goes, I'm going to assume this is something that'll go away with a shower, so if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean,
So did the carbuncle go away with the
With a
did
little
it go
loofah,
away?
little loofah work. But
no,
yeah, only
I
one
think
time.
a girl that's into me or you, Jay, is going to be into a little bit of ball stench.
I don't think I have ball stench.
Well, according to that girl who wanted you to shower.
No, very over hygienic, and also, but also, I mean, I'm shower. Usually, when I do shows, especially on the road, I take a shower like an hour before I leave for the show,
But
and then I sit on stage, so it's not really much sweating, and yeah, no, I'm never that worried about that.
You don't get the schwitzy up on stage, huh?
No, and I'd be pretty insecure if I thought I did stink or something.
Well,
But Jay also gets Botox injections to stop his sweating.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And my armpits.
Oh, okay. All right.
It rules.
Wait,
Under control.
that's known. I'm not just shouting something out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
He also
how
threads his
many?
eyebrows.
Who's banged more skanks on the road?
Probably
You or
Lewis.
Lewis?
If it's me, it'd only be because I've been doing it longer, but Lewis probably for volume.
They're loud bitches.
I think you always were. I mean, I'm been out of the game for a few
Yeah, Lewis
years
was
now,
good.
but even
Lewis
back
was
then,
good
Lewis
at pulling
always
pussy. Like
Lewis always was
selling
probably had
tickets
the-
on the street.
Lewis
I
had the
used to-
highest numbers.
Yeah, I started in comedy by promoting comedy clubs. I'd walk in the Times Square and I'd be like, "Hey, you want to go see a comedy show?" And that was like the best pickup line in the world because very often they were like, "No," but then you start finding out all this information about them.
Would you
and
like
then-
to feast on this? And then it was a different time, Adam. Different time.
So now, is it weird now? You know, everybody on the internet posting stuff like you would be a conquest for them. They'd want to talk about it. They'd want to get.
I think
a
the
picture.
scariest thing is the young female comic because, like I said, the conversations I would have to say to feel comfortable in that because of the Louis thing, the assumed like power dynamic versus being like a guy who's talking to a pretty girl and trying to have sex with her. It's like, well, I had to have sex.
But I
because
also,
you're the headliner.
we're sort of talking
You
about that
don't.
earlier, right? I just don't subscribe to that horse shit. I'm not in a position of power. These women are all in a position of power. Let's fucking get
I'm
real.
just a guy
They're hot
holding a
chicks,
knife.
dude. No, I'm telling you right now, dude, chicks have so much power. And when you're talking about like power dynamic, I'm sorry, just because I've been doing comedy a little bit longer.
No, I'm not
or-
agreeing with it. I'm just saying it's the nerves of that, though. It's like if I was like,
But that is believed. I agree with you. I think it's crazy when they talk about power dynamics. Like when you see girls wearing like crazy slutty outfits at in this neighborhood in the summertime or something like that's all a power dynamic. That's them walking around like I know you all want what I have, but the world doesn't look at it that way. So I met my wife in we started dating in 2017. So I got out of the like hooking up with chicks game right as the Me Too movement started. But like I would think that would really be like I'd be concerned about that.
No,
that like any chick now at this point.
I
could
don't
just
pretend to
say-
be a nice guy. Like I think the guys who get in trouble for that shit, or it's like the
So it's the same
hypocrisy.
theory as most offensive podcast. on
Yes,
earth?
it's 100% the most. The
Welcome
same
to Louis
theory.
J. Gomez, most rapey comic on earth. Who wants to hook up? You knew what you were getting into. I branded it.
Lewis no means yes, Gomez.
Hey,
But it's true, though.
MCs, you want a headline? Talk to the cock.
I have dated a decent amount of female comedians as well, and you're just sort of in the business together. It's just easy to like hook up.
But I'm saying all it matters is who's more like popular in the world of other people to make that argument. I don't think it's a valid argument. I'm saying that argument can be made. I'm saying my point with Louis' thing is like I don't think. Let me say this. Let me say I don't think Louis. If I may, I don't think Louis was thinking like I'm gonna hit on these chicks and they're gonna go for it because I'm fucking Louis C.K. Do you know what I mean? I think he was as like bashfully trying to hook up as he would with anybody.
I think Louis probably had more balls to do it and to take the shot because he's Louis, and more girls would probably say yes not because it's a power dynamic, because
he's Louis. They're
he's
into it.
fucking talented as fuck. That's an attractive quality.
Women are attracted
90
to status.
They're-
That's like the whole thing.
Status-
So it's so weird that they try to flip that on its head. Like, oh, you're abusing your status. It's like it's literally like you saying to a chick, like, oh, you're abusing the fact that you're hot.
Yeah.
It's like that's what men want in a chick, and what women want is status.
Adam, did you ever see the movie? What was the Greg Kinnear movie about Bob Crane?
Oh yeah, autofocus. Yeah,
But that was best. Like when he got older to get when he just wanted to get pussy. Like towards the end, he would just go to a bar and be like, "Hey, can you pop on Channel 5?" Like, to
Right.
a bartender, and it'll be Hogan's Heroes, which is his show, and he'd just be sitting there, and like the girls would walk up and be like, "Excuse me, is that you?" And he'd go, "Oh, that is embarrassing." Yeah, a million years ago though, right? And just like start the conversation like that, and get it. But like that is pretty hilarious. Yeah, but again, it is like the
I
thing.
bet LeBeau would try the same shit.
Yeah,
He was the French guy from the show.
but you're women. A guy being, confident. Success is like sort of a sign. It's not even the money. I don't think women most young chicks aren't really attracted to money. That's not it. It's how somebody who has money carries themselves is attractive.
Yeah, it's you on stage and commanding the audience.
Yes.
Because so many guys in so many shitty bands we've never heard of have hot-ass girlfriends.
Yes.
And it's not even on the hopes that they're going to turn into a huge stadium band. It's just that guy's on stage. We're not. He's there. We're here. There's 300 of us. There's one of him. And there's another 150 bitches in this place that want to suck his dick, and I'm going to get there first.
Yeah, because it's a more primal thing than even money. It predates money. It predates wealth. When there was no wealth, it's status. It's who's the leader of this fucking tribe versus who's everybody following that leader. Like it's a now that correlates with money. You know, like people who have high status are more likely to also have money in general.
Yes, I completely agree.
But it's not the money thing per se.
No, they like the success that got them the money and the drive that got them the money and the status that got them the money. And then the money is a byproduct of all the things they're attracted to. But by the way, they'll take that as
well. I'm not a strip club guy very much. And also for the reason is when I go in there, I'm just like, I always assume that I'm like one of the people that are washing off themselves at night. You know what I mean? Like, I had to let this guy grab my ass, whatever. And you're staring at me. I lost my train of thought.
So insecure. You think that? I think you'd be probably of a higher caliber for strip club.
Maybe,
guys.
but when I did this last weekend because I wanted
9.
Yeah, because I wanted to see that placement documentary that I told everyone if you want to do like meet and greet and take pictures and stuff to go to the strip club, and going in there. And just they had no fucking idea who I was, the strippers at all. Not one of them recognized me at all. But the fucking 50-some, 70 people that were there, like getting stoked that I was there and wanting to take pictures and stuff, like it drew them all over. It was pretty wacky.
So what you're saying is a great way to manipulate these women is to have them all meet you.
I might do meet and greets exclusively at strip club. I don't think it's a terrible idea. If
it'll completely work. They do not need a direct channel to recognition. The 22-year-old
everybody else is
who ran away from Arkansas and has taken a couple classes at JUCO doesn't know the fuck you are, but the 7 guys that are in their 40s do know, and that's enough for her to wander over.
Somebody.
Do you remember that viral video a few years ago? It was like these kids. They were like, it was before TikTok, but it was probably on YouTube. And these kids were like, "We're gonna pretend that our friend's a celebrity at the mall today, and we're gonna just see if we can create enough buzz." And like 5 kids went in, and they like 3 of them be talking like, "Oh, dude, you know that fucking Tommy Toucans is here, or whatever." And
Tommy Toucans,
yeah, and he'd be walking through. It was a good-looking kid, right? And then
your name should be Tommy Toucans. That shirt.
Within an hour, there's like literally crowds of people around this kid taking pictures with him, asking for autographs. Nobody knows.
Your last 2 albums sucked. Just get a real strong opinion.
Meanwhile, what's fucking funny, and you had this ever where someone comes up and like some people are asking for autographs, and then usually an older shitty lady comes up and goes, "I don't know who you are, but can I take a picture? I guess because you're like, why?
I will tell you, I've had that 1 million times, and they never stop. They go, "I don't know who you are. I don't think you're that much of a thing. Evidently, other people." And I just want to go, hit the fucking bricks, cunt. I had a 2 women once. They came up to me. I was out front of Jimmy's Theater, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. And they were like, "You're the Man Show guy." And it's like, yeah. And they go, our husbands are huge fans. Could we get a picture? And I was like, yeah, we'll get a picture. Us, not so much, but our husbands are huge fans of the show. And I was like, all right. It would make their day. We didn't really appreciate the Man Show. I was like, all right, let's just take the picture. The 3rd time, they came back 3 times with, we're not really fans. We found it a little offensive, but I was like, no picture. And they were like, what? And I was like, fuck you. And they're like, really? What? I was like, I sat there silently for the first insult, the second insult, the 3rd insult. I'm fucking leaving. And
there's such a weird thing. Women don't understand how to be humans. You can't just insult someone and ask a favor from them.
I know you get this too. Then there's the sandbagging of the husband because the husband's a fan, and they'll be like, "Hey, this is my husband. He's a faggot who wants to suck your dick. So would you mind taking a picture with him?"
Yeah.
Like, why are you deballing all of us feel weird?
Yeah. I've had that, and had the opposite way too. I've had girls who are fans who are there with their guy. And will be like, they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm a huge fan. I love everything you do." He doesn't even know anything. He's like a total idiot. And you're like, I'm uncomfortable that he's allowing this to
You got to
happen in front
overshake
of
his
him.
hand and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude, thanks for coming out, man.
It's
I
like just
appreciate it."
so awkward. Like, why are you letting your chick just
Dude, control
debone
your
you?
woman, dude.
Yeah, like,
Or girls say that, it goes in front of their boyfriends. It goes, or if they're a fan, like, "You're one of my hall passes," like in front of the guy. You're like, "Okay, man, like, why are you making us all feel so weird?"
And do you have to fuck in the hall, or can we go inside? All right, we'll take a quick break. Be right back with Legion of Skanks right after this. All right, so man, this has been a fun conversation. We're talking about getting laid on the road. We're talking about the libertarian lifestyle.
A lot of overlap.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, libertarian. Body cams on cops, good or bad?
I like it overall. I guess it doesn't really matter if nothing happens.
The
as
thing
a
about
result of
body
it.
cams on cops is it actually turns out that less brutality claims come in.
Really?
It actually helps the cops.
Yeah, because the story is always like he shot that black guy, and then the body cam is like the black guy stabbed him in the face.
Or it's just like he pulled me over. He was rude. He pulled me out of the car. He pushed me around. And then the body cam says, he said, ma'am, 16 times.
But that's kind of
you know?
good. So that's good for that.
It
reason
keeps
then.
everyone
It's-
honest.
it keeps
I
everyone-
got
'cause
pulled
there are
over-
dick cops too who abuse their
Yeah.
authority. So
I got
for
pulled
it.
over in Brooklyn for the first time since I got my license back. I just moved to Jersey like a year and a half ago during the pandemic, so I got my license as an adult.
I mean, you see this guy in this shirt driving a
Oh,
$60,000 car.
No.
You're not going to pull him over.
I call for backup before I hit the rollers.
I'm calling him the FBI.
Couldn't look more like a drug dealer.
well, I got pulled over for my tinted windows
Yeah.
on my car. My tint was too dark. And but the guy, what a different. I hadn't been pulled over in 20 some odd years, right? This is how long it's been since I got pulled over by a cop. And I remember back in the day, the cop would pull you over, be like, bang, 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 knock your window. It's like, all right, fucking. And the attitude, the energy from cops.
All right, first off, I just want to say Black Lives Matter.
Dude, I got my hands on the, like, back in the day, like, I'm like genuinely nervous. Now, granted, back in the day, I did have an ounce of weed under my seat and a gun in the car.
Now you have an ounce of weed in the passenger seat.
It's legal. I
You're
love
like,
it.
hey.
But I still have like the anxiety. But the cop came over, rolled down my window, and he was like, just want you to know, my name is Officer Sanchez. I'm from the 55th precinct. You are on body, I have my body cam on right now. Just want to let you know. Do you know why you were pulled over? As respectful as could be. I think the cameras, similarly to how like if you have a security camera in a store, it's just keeping you honest. If you see the camera, you're probably not going to do something illegal. It's keeping them honest. Everyone knows, look, we got to be on the up and up right now because there's a fucking camera on us. So I think it's only a good thing.
Oh, yeah. It's that whole security camera stopped that bodega situation right in its tracks.
No, and we saw exactly what happened, and they still charged the guy with murder.
I think cops sort of have to worry about the camera. Criminals, for some reason, like I thought surveillance cameras were going to stop people from stealing shit from people's porches or robbing 7-Elevens or bodegas. It seems like they've just went
No, but
further
what it has
with
made though is my favorite. One of my favorite kind of like YouTube videos is people sneaking around when they're completely on like perfect high def camera.
Yes.
Like that's the fun, like stealing packages and you're just sitting there watching them like a full color picture of them like looking left and right 100 times.
Would you, here's an idea, but tell me where you guys, maybe it's a libertarian idea. I don't know. A lot of guys get pulled over for tint on the window.
Yeah.
And it seems like a disproportionate men of color get pulled over with that limo tint. It's illegal to ride around with that tint. I would argue that a black man is harder to see through a tint than, let's say, Ed Sheeran.
Sure.
And so I would argue that the tint should come off the color of your skin, and there should be a grade. Like you're lighter skinned guy,
I should be able to have a darker tint.
you should have a darker tint than, let's say, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
Who couldn't get away with a 30% limo.
He shouldn't
type.
be able to have windows at all. You got to see right in.
Convertible, no windshield.
In New York,
Ed Sheehan looks when you put a flashlight on a fake tit. Like,
in New York, it has to be. You have to be able to see, I guess, 70% through the window. And
Right.
my tint was. I guess it has to be no more than 30% in New York. My tint was 76% because they had a little tint thing. It's like they invented this just for Puerto Ricans, a whole device that registers the tint of your window.
So the cop measures it when he pulls you over?
Yeah, he put it on my window, and it was like, yeah, dude, you're 76% of your window. You can't see through.
How can you see out even from the inside?
It's not. I asked my detailer. I was like, I want to have the darkest it could legally be allowed, and they were like, yeah. And apparently, it's way darker than it's legally allowed.
You can do the rear windows. You can do the passenger windows.
I think that looks weird,
and you
though.
can do the rear. It does look weird,
You have
but
super
legally.
dark tint on the back.
And you can do the rear window, but you can't do the two side ones, at least in California.
What is the appeal of the tint? Why do you want it?
Just looks cooler.
Just
What's the
looks
appeal of a
cooler.
nice car?
No, I'm just
I
asking.
can get a fucking, used
No, okay, I
Honda.
No, it's a fair enough answer. I was just curious. Why, you just
about
like the way it
windows.
looks.
Cars look cooler with tints. Like you'll notice when they photograph cars for brochures and stuff, the windows are always sort of dark. Like it looks better. Like when a
Fair
car's
enough.
a little lower.
And it
There's
keeps
certain
cool. It
things
keeps
like
it cooler
that.
as well. So my tinted windows specifically have like a solar thing where it keeps the car cooler, which was more expensive, like the wrapping or whatever. But it's it's just making it look a little bit cooler. I don't have my windows aren't like blacked out completely. They're just kind of tinted. I don't know. I want to have a cool looking car.
I did that as a gift for a woman once. Like to me, that was a very thoughtful gift. Like for your birthday, I will tint the windows of your car. She didn't see it that way, and I kind of think that's the difference
What
between
kind of car was it?
men and women.
Fiero.
It was a Scion. I think. All right, let's get back to Skank on the road.
Sure.
I like how confident you are about the non-showering and ball washing.
It's not. It's not confident. If I
You
thought
just
there was
ruined Jay's life. He's going to shower every time.
But you did have the one request.
Yeah,
Did
but
that
was
make
before
you self-conscious about it for the next conquest?
No, it wasn't too bad. I'm telling you, it wasn't like she got in there and was like, "Oh, maybe you should take a shower." She was like, "You don't shower like after shows or something?" I was like, "No, not really." And she was like, "Would it be crazy if I said like would?" I was like, "Sure." I just jumped in. But
That's just her being a germaphobe, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a commentary on
No,
you.
that's what I'm saying. That didn't insult me. I'm just saying it's the only time I've ever taken a shower.
When you got out, where was she? Was she still fully dressed, still hanging around, taking a shit in the bathroom? Like,
No,
where was she?
I think she was naked already. Mm-hmm. But I've also, Florida, I remember, is a city where,
It's a state.
Orlando is a place I remember, or maybe it was like West Palm.
particularly sweaty.
Something. I got laid down there once, and it was like I had to push the person like off for a little bit because I was like, I have to go back to the hotel because I knew that was just like a humid Florida thing. So
Dude, if I eat really bad, dude, anytime I fucked it, if I'm not dieting well, like I feel like I have to shit at all times. That's when I'll get very self-conscious. If I'm like on top of a chick and I just had like a bad meal, I'm like tightening my asshole the whole time because I feel at any given moment I could just let out a fart.
I also try not to have a big meal for several hours before I would hook up.
Did you guys see that? I don't know if it was Postmates or Grubhub or whatever it is for Pride Month. They gave the diet out for bottoms.
One of these guys here showed me that a couple
crazy.
weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah,
Keep your
Bottoms
asshole like
diet.
clean.
It was no, it wasn't Uber Eats because I downloaded. I ended up deleting the app as a joke, just being funny. I posted a video being like, "See you later, Grubhub" or whatever it was, but then I also had Grindr and a bunch of gay apps on it in the video. Which was it's just so it's pandering. Who
It's
gives
pandering.
a shit? I don't want
But
to
it's weird pandering.
It's very weird.
It's weird pandering because this doesn't just apply to bottoms. This would apply to anyone who gets fucked in the ass, like any chick who takes anal.
And also, I don't want my fucking
It's just such a
my
weird
food
thing.
delivery
Chicken
services.
Thai lettuce wraps. Are you thinking about bottoming tonight?
Yeah.
It's the
Because-
most unappetizing thought.
Just stay
to
out of
be
the
like
bedroom.
on
I don't
your-
care
yeah.
about. I don't care about my app. Like we discussed regular, heterosex, and that's very normal. It's like, no, my food app should not be discussing regular heterosex. You should be delivering me food, and that's that.
Well, right. So you guys are like me. It's like it's not so much that you recognize this; it just feels like pure pandering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
It's annoying.
M&M's is coming out in the gay flag color. You guys don't give two fucking shits about
Nope.
this. You don't give two shits about Black Lives Matter. You don't give two shits about the gay community. You don't give a fuck about any of these people.
Well, watching in New
It's
York,
scary.
that was interesting. I lived on a police station block through all the Black Lives Matter stuff, and watching those every riot, not riot, but the protest that was some turn into riots.
There we go.
That would go down the street. It was like you saw people like that I believed were mad. You know what I mean? Genuinely mad and hurt and whatever they were going through emotionally. And then just fucking 6 chicks dressed in like short shorts, like following it, like making kissy faces and like filming themselves doing it. And that's fucking pretty gross. That's exactly like.
So that's-
but those girls put up black screens on the Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? They're always involved in the thing, but like for
So
photo
that's-
op and just to say like, it's like we were on the right side of history, like with no real like emotion towards it.
Right, that's like the micro version of the macro version. So the corporation is like the macro version, the micros, the 3-6 chicks
Yeah.
who don't give a fuck. And by the way, you know, it's like all these assholes are like, this is really important to me. Like this trans rights are really, it's like, I've known you for 23 years. You didn't say shit about this 10 minutes ago until 10 minutes ago. How is this really important? Or is a
Until I fucked a
corporation like,
he-she in Costa Rica.
Right, the
now
Nest-
it matters.
Well,
I
the
think
Nestle
it's hilarious that
company.
nobody cares about the Ukraine anymore. That was such a
right.
big
But
deal 2 months ago.
And it was so the Ukraine one was a really interesting one to watch like rise up because it was literally
For
like
3 days.
now I understand that the fucking Russia invaded Ukraine and shit and feel however you feel about that, but to see all of these people and it's the regular people, just such followers that they're all like putting up Ukrainian flags and like yesterday,
Right.
You didn't know anything about Ukraine. You would have never mentioned Ukraine. You don't know
And forget-
anything about the
forget
conflict,
yesterday.
the
It's
history.
about today, where the flag is just gone because we hit
And the
Gay
war's
Pride
still-
Month,
and the
you know
war's
what?
still
Gay
going
Pride
on.
Month took precedence over the Ukraine, which is still in the middle of a war. Nobody really gives a shit.
well, where's their gays?
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine is actually extremely like they are not cool with gays at all. Like,
Yeah.
they're like it's one of the least tolerant places for
Eastern
gays.
Europe in general is a little
Is also
tough on the gays.
The Ukraine was funny because that's like, I think the first kind of like problem we've ever had where they were like, by the way, you could just go over there and help them fight if you're just like some guy, and people did. People just went over there and like, I'm gonna go fight for the Ukraine. What a weird,
It's
what a
all
weird
just,
thing
but,
to do. Even
But the thing about it that's very weird is like it's like just like marching orders are given, and then how many people are just willing to follow it uncritically.
I
Like,
felt
it's
that
just-
way about COVID.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're going to shut down beaches. Oh, okay. I won't go to the beach. Yeah, and we're going to shut down the trails. No more hiking. Okay. Oh, you can wear a mask. Oh, no, 2 masks when you hike. Oh, wear a mask, and then you can fly, and then when the chick hands you Fiesta Mix, you can pull it down and eat the Fiesta Mix. But then you got to, okay. Oh, okay, what do I do next, boss? Like, first off, what the fuck happened to you? This is America. How'd everyone's brain get so fucking malleable so goddamn fast?
Well, they tricked everyone into like people shame others for not following the orders. Now that was the trick,
Right.
That was
That was the
beautiful
trick.
because when your neighbors start going like, "Yeah, dude, you're not wearing a fucking mask," and they start giving you looks, then it's not even like following orders. You go like, "Well, I don't want to be against the grain. I don't want to be called a Nazi."
Right.
It all falls into that category. If you don't do this, you're a Nazi somehow. If I don't put a mask on in a park, I'm a Nazi. That is fucking crazy. Now I am a Nazi, but it has nothing to do with my mask.
but I'll talk
Give me
all
the credit I deserve.
I'll talk all this shit with everybody, but I just also kind of blindly like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have enough to make a stink on it either way.
no, I get
Like as soon as they go, you can take the mask off completely. I didn't go like, well, I'm still gonna. I took it off, but when they were like, wear it, I just wore it. I didn't try to sneak. Not
I know that's why
wearing it,
most people
yeah.
are complacent and they just do it and they don't argue and they don't complain. They don't want to ruffle any feathers.
But it's also like you see there's different layers to it. There's like all the people following, but then there's also like the people at the top kind of pushing this. Like they don't believe it. That was the really interesting thing about when you'd see all the pictures of them not wearing masks, you know, Gavin Newsom or Nancy Pelosi or
Right.
whatever. Like they're not wearing masks in their own gatherings. Like they're telling everyone else to do it, but they don't fucking buy this shit. Did you see the one? It was on MSNBC. I thought it was one of the most interesting clips of the whole pandemic where they turn it's like a man on the street thing, and he goes, look right over here. We see this guy not wearing a mask. They're outside. They turn their camera over to this guy to like put him on national television to make him the face of, oh yeah, look at this guy not wearing a mask. And he goes, your cameraman's not wearing a mask. And then he had a cell phone video of someone else there that confirmed that the cameraman.
That's hilarious.
So it's like they're like calling out people. Well, they don't even believe it themselves.
No,
It's
they
just a
don't
very
believe it.
weird thing.
That's the thing. They don't believe. Like when Gavin Newsom got caught at the French Laundry and people are like, he's a hypocrite. I'm like, yeah, he's a hypocrite, but he doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go to SoFi Stadium for the Super Bowl, take pictures with Magic Johnson, no mask. His excuse was, I have my mask in my hand. Like, oh, okay. They don't believe it. That's the whole thing. Like recently, and I think that's kind of the part we need to drill down on. So I was saying in a podcast a few months back, which is Gavin Newsom, California has like 22 states that are no-fly states. If you work for California and the government and you can't go there on taxpayer money for an official business or whatever, Gavin Newsom vacations in Montana. That's a no-fly state. And everyone's like, hey, man, aren't you a hypocrite? And he's like, I'm spending my own money here. That's what he's saying. It's like, this is my money. And I'm like, yeah, but it's an evil place. So what I was saying is like, if somebody said, this is a racist donut shop, you can't go there. And he went, and we can't spend taxpayer money there. And he went, okay. But then you went to the donut shop and your excuse was, oh, I'm spending my money at the racist donut shops. Like, you don't believe it. Then you don't believe it. And I guess it's not news to anybody, but that's kind of where the politicians are at. Like, they just don't.
Yeah, I think that's always been kind of the truth. It's just like more obvious during this. But I think it's like the connection you said before with the woke shit, it's all like it's about pushing you and like seeing how it's about making people conform. And I think that was the real fucked up thing about COVID and even Ukraine and all this other shit.
Right.
Is you just realize it's like, oh fuck, this has really worked. This has worked really well for a large percentage of the population. Is just completely uncritically
we told them,
thinking.
we gave them the information that anything they want to do, that there's a path to making us do it.
I mean, it's almost like you feel like almost like in like some trading places type scenario. Like there's some billionaires who made a bet who are laughing about this. They're like, I could have them wearing masks in a pool.
Right.
And you're like, no way. No way you could. You're like, I could do it. I could have them do it.
Ron Hubbard. I'll start a religion and make $1 million.
Like it's, you know, like, and they really did a lot of it.
They did. Legion of Skanks, great podcast, great guys. We've come to the end of our time here, but thanks for inviting me into your studio.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
I use the coasters, a former woodworker, and I appreciate the varnish on this solid table. Big J, Lewis, Dave, thank you guys for coming in and hanging out. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla saying mahalo. I did a film with Dennis Prager called No Safe Spaces, and they completely attacked that film. The next film I did was called Uppity. It was about the first black race car driver to race at Indy. It was a human rights, civil rights story about a black man who triumphed in a sport that didn't, no reviews.